Okay, so I've gotten the thumbs up from Drew to get going, and I think before I start answering questions, I'm just going to introduce myself and tell you guys a little bit about myself and my background. Feel free, if I'm ever saying anything that might not make sense or that you have a question about, to just comment, type it in the box, and I'll try to keep up with it. So I am Hannah Thurley, originally from Nashville, Tennessee. I went to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, which was a small Division I school where I played basketball and softball. From there, I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee, and got my master's degree in sports psychology. And from there, I went and worked with the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball team. Then I moved to New York City and worked at a private practice where I worked with anyone from firefighters to golfers to hockey players to you name it, we worked with them. Actors, actresses, all of that. And about 2 months ago, I got offered and accepted a job with the Philadelphia Phillies. So I'm actually in Clearwater, Florida right now, in the middle of spring training. So things are crazy, but I'm really glad we could schedule this time tonight to answer a few of the questions that you guys have. So Drew sent me over a list of questions. Go Phillies. And I'm just going to kind of dive in and start on those. Again, if you have any comments or anything, please feel free to put them in the box and type, and I'll keep up with them. So the first question is, how do you get over giving up goals? Although lacrosse is a team sport, the goalie is usually the one who takes the blame when another team scores. How can we put that behind us? So this is a really good question. Goalies tend to take a lot of pride in not letting another team score. And so when they do, they tend to kind of feel remorse, feel mad, feel sad, feel whatever their emotions have. And to be totally honest, that's normal, right? We don't want to let the other team score. And so when we do, we have this immediate reaction of frustration, of mad, of dang it, what happened? Or other words that we can't say. And we have that reaction. And then what we do after that reaction is the most important part. So we have something that occurs. So the event occurs, you get scored on, then you react and you're mad and you have your moment. But then how are you going to respond to that reaction? And that's when we kind of can get in trouble, or we can learn to move on from it. So for example, one way that we wouldn't want to react is, or respond is, somebody scores a goal on us, we react with our oh crap, then we are like, you know what, I don't even know why I'm playing, right? I shouldn't have let that happen. I suck. I'm the worst person on the team. I shouldn't even be here. What am I doing? My mom and dad are going to be mad at me. You know, all of these negative thoughts that we can control, right? So here's what we would actually want that to look like is, you shoot a goal, or they shoot a goal, they score, you missed it. You have your oh crap moment, right? Your reaction. And then your response is, you know what? That was a good shot by that player. Okay, try it again. You're not going to get it past me this next time, right? So we're taking a little response to our reaction that we can't control. So what I'm saying is, you're allowed to have your frustrated moment, but you're not allowed to let that go into the next minute, the next minute, the next minute, right? So you have to learn how to respond to your reaction. Does that make sense? So something's going to happen, you're going to have a reaction, and you have to learn how to respond in an appropriate way that's going to help you come back faster. So that response is different for everybody. So what might work for you may not work for your teammate. So you kind of have to practice with what you're going to say to yourself after you make a mistake, or after you find yourself getting mad at yourself. And another part that I would go and say is, we have to be careful with what we say to ourselves. So one of the things I talk about a lot is the golden rule of life, right? The golden rule of life is, do unto others as you want done unto you, right? So treat others how you would want to be treated. Well, we kind of come up with this platinum rule, right? Which is, say unto yourself what you would say to a teammate. Okay, so let's say you're not the one who let the goal score. Let's say your teammate let the goal score. What are you going to say to your teammate? Maybe, hey, don't worry about it. Keep your head up. You got it next time. It's just one. Like, don't brush it off, right? Some of that. But what do you say to yourself? Right? Going back to that, you stink. What are you doing? Why are you playing? Coach shouldn't play you. You don't deserve to be here, right? We completely demoralize ourselves when the reality is we should be talking to ourselves the same way we would talk to a teammate. So we should be telling ourselves, hey, you got it. It was one shot. It's okay. Bad game, bad play, whatever it is, brush it off. You'll get the next one. So we really have to practice what we say, especially what we're saying to ourselves. So that is number 1. Any questions on number 1? Slight pause, slight delay, and then I'll move on to number 2. What strategies can I use to stay composed? Okay, so question number 2 is, what strategies can I use to stay composed and confident? So right off the bat, the first technique that comes to mind is utilizing a deep breath in the right way. So a lot of people, well, most people know that it's important to take a deep breath, but a lot of people don't know how or why it's important to take that deep breath. So compose. So when would you need composure? Maybe after something happens. Maybe you're getting all riled up and you need to bring it down a notch. Maybe you're excited about the game and you need to get down a little bit, right? Stay focused and on the goal at hand. And so one of the things that you can do to stay composed is practice breathing. I call this belly breathing. It's a funny way of saying diaphragmatic breathing. So you actually want to learn how to breathe through your stomach instead of through your chest. So if you're getting amped up or you're starting to get mad or the ref makes a bad call and you're starting to get irritated, one of the things you can do is take a step back and take a deep breath. But you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. So typically when we take a deep breath, we do this and our chest comes up and that's about it. And our shoulders go like this. When reality is when we take a deep breath, we want our shoulders to stay low, our chest to stay still, and our stomach to blow up like a balloon. So when you are inhaling, your stomach should go out, it should expand. And when you're exhaling, your stomach should deflate. And that is really making sure the oxygen is getting all the way down into our belly. And what's unique is that's not the way we usually breathe. So if you watch little babies, if anybody has any little brothers or sisters, if you watch infants, the way they breathe is belly breathing. And then through life, we change how we breathe. And so in order to force ourselves to breathe that way, you have to actually really think about it because that's not normal. Normally, we just want to keep it all up in our chest and move our shoulders. When in reality, we want to force it lower into our stomachs. And so in order to do that, you actually have to think about it. And so the trick is when you're thinking about that, it forces you out of the past, right? Whatever happened that might get you worked up or out of your composed state, or it gets you out from worrying about what is going to happen in the future. So we're really pulling ourselves into the present moment by taking that deep breath. And that's important too, is to know not only how you take the deep breath, but why we're taking that deep breath. So we're taking that deep breath to stay composed, right? To stay in the present moment. It's not just to take it because coach told us to take it. It doesn't, if coach says take a deep breath, then you take a deep breath, it could mean absolutely nothing. So you want to know why you're doing it and you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. So I would definitely say breathing is a great technique for composure and to build confidence too when necessary. Confidence is kind of a whole nother topic, but what if I told you that you don't have to be confident in order to perform your best? So think about that. I think that's something that we all think we have to be really confident about, but the reality is we actually don't. But like I said, that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, Nico, you have a question. Normally, after I give up on a goal, I will allow myself to be mad about it only until the whistle blows for the next face-off. Is this an effective way to stay composed for the rest of the game if I leave it in the past after the next whistle? I think that's a great technique as long as the next whistle isn't, 5 minutes from there. If that's a good allotment of time, if that's, 30 seconds maybe, I think you just want to make sure it's not affecting yourself if that whistle goes longer. Or if somebody's coming at you again, you just don't want to hold on to it too long. But I think the whistle is a great cue. And so we talk about cues a lot. You can have internal cues, you can have external cues. So I would say a whistle is an external cue. The next whistle you hear, okay, this is me washing off whatever just happened, right? A lot of people talk about it as a toilet bowl. So they actually imagine themselves flushing their mistake down the toilet bowl. So maybe every time you hear that whistle, if you've made a mistake, if you've done something great, you just flush it and move on to the next play, whether it was good or bad. That way it kind of keeps you composed. It keeps you at your best. It doesn't really, because we can get overconfident. We can get over cocky, right? And we can also be under aroused, right? We can be not into it. We can be a little sleepy. We can be tired. And so that whistle could be a constant reminder of every time you hear it, boom, moving forward. So I think that's a really good idea. Great comment, Nico. Okay, Okay, this is weird because no one's talking, so I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I'm going to keep going to question number 3. Question number 3 is, how do you handle the pressure if you are starting on your team for the first time? So this is a really good question. First of all, I would say pressure is a privilege, right? So if this is your first time ever starting, 1, congratulations. Like, that is awesome and super exciting. 2, if you feel nervous or pressure, like, that's totally fine. You should feel that, right? It's not like you're at home sitting on the couch watching TV, eating potato chips, relaxing, right? You're actually in a game situation. Your heart rate is elevated. Your palms are sweaty, right? You're excited. This is something big that's happening. So I would say that you're in a completely normal position. And then I would try to hope that you would have already practiced, hopefully being in that situation before. So maybe if you knew that playing or your first start was coming up, maybe we could have practiced, visualization. So you actually practice seeing yourself performing in a way that you want to perform. So you actually see yourself the day up. I'm pretty nervous. I know this is going to happen. I know this big play, like whatever is going to happen. And you kind of run through that in your head. So you're giving yourself the opportunity to be there before you're actually even there. And going with that, no matter what, your first time doing anything, you're going to be nervous. You're going to have butterflies. And one of the things that I say a lot is you're going to have butterflies. You just want to make sure that they're flying in formation. So you want to make sure that you're going to have nerves and that you can control your nerves and that your nerves aren't controlling you. So what does that look like? So you go to the game, you're about to start, all of a sudden you feel your stomach is really hurting, right? You're really nervous. So one of 2 ways, right? It kind of goes back to you score a goal, you have a reaction, then you respond. Your stomach, you feel nervous, you have a reaction, oh no, I'm really nervous, and then you have a response. Do you say, hey, my stomach hurts because my blood's pumping more, I'm sweating, my body's having a reaction because it's a really big moment. This is my body's way of telling me I'm ready. Or do you say, oh no, I'm really nervous, my stomach hurts, oh, I shouldn't play today, I'm really nervous, I don't want to go out there, I don't want to play, I'm scared, I'm going to mess up, blah, 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 right? All of these things. So it's up to you to respond on how you respond to the body, the feeling that you're feeling physiologically. And you can control that. So nerves are normal, but you have to learn to control them, which does take practice, just like any physical skill. All of these mental skills that we're talking about tonight take practice. Okay, we have a question from Charlie. How do you get into the mindset to play as well as you do in practice as you do in games? Great question. Probably one of the number 1 questions I get all the time is, how do we transfer what we do in practice into a game? You have to practice like you would play. And I know we hear that all the time, and everybody thinks, okay, physically I have to practice. We have to scrimmage. We have to do all these things. We can't just do cone drills, right? But you actually have to practice mentally like you would be performing in a game. So what does that mean? So a lot of times in practice, we're focused on what? We're focused on technique, skill, slowing down, making sure we're doing the right motions, making sure we're getting better, right? And so we're only focused on internal thoughts, right? Internal triggers, arm speed, leg speed, core, rotation, how are we throwing it, how are we catching, how are we defending, right? All of these different things that we're doing. When the reality is, then we go to a game, and what do coaches say? Just go out there and play, hustle, just go fast, do whatever you need to do, right? And they're actually asking you to have an external focus. So what that means is they're asking you to focus on the ball, focus on the game, focus on your opponent, right? And not focus so much on you. But that's hard to do if you've never practiced that way. So what I typically do with my athletes is during practice, you have to practice, right? You have to work on technique. You have to work on your skill because that's the only way you're going to get better. But practice ideally should be divided into time when you're focusing on internal things such as technique, skill, and all that, and then also times when you're focusing on strictly external things. So, okay, great. We just did this drill where you focused on a certain technique, a certain grip, a certain throw, whatever it is, and now let's let it rip. Now don't think about the technique. We've been focusing on it a lot. Just let your body practice it. And that's a really cool way to kind of transition from that internal to external, which is also viewed as practice to performance mindset. Ideally, I think you're practicing like 70-80% technique internal, and then the other 20 to 30% you're practicing actually focusing on something outside of your body. Okay, we have another question. Will, I feel like whether or not I play well is more so dictated by my mindset that anything else rather than my confidence. I play the best when I'm calm, but sometimes I just have these random panic anxiety attacks and I have no idea why they happen. What's the best way to prevent this and or deal with it? Great question. I don't think there's really a way to prevent it, right? Sometimes we just feel anxious. Sometimes we just feel nervous. And so what you can do, right? I mean, it's safe to say that we really can't control that, right? Let's say something big happens. Let's say our teacher gives us a pop quiz, right? What do? We're nervous. We're anxious. Are you kidding me? And so sometimes we can't control that, but what you can control is your response to that immediate reaction, right? So, okay, your teacher comes with a pop quiz. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, I know I studied, or I know I didn't, or I read it, or I didn't, but either way, we got to take this test. So is it going to help me to freak out and be nervous and scared and anxious, or am I just going to be like, I'm going to do the best I can possibly do right now? You know, you can't change if you've read it or not. And just like in a game, you can't really change if you prepared for this opponent or not. And so it's kind of like, it's okay to have those scary moments and those freak out moments. And we have them all the time, like no matter what you're doing, on the field or off the field, in the classroom, obviously. And so it's just a matter of being like, okay, you know what? I am really nervous right now, or I am having a little anxiety attack, or I am really scared. But, you know, you have to learn how to talk to yourself through that too. And that takes practice, because sometimes, you know, people like to be yelled at, and sometimes people like to just be talked to, like really quietly or really nicely, or sometimes people just need a teammate to be like, hey man, you got this. And sometimes you have to be that person for yourself. So you kind of have to go back and forth and figure out what works best for you. So the next time you have that anxiety panic attack, try something. Try to say something to yourself like, you know what, this is totally normal. I'm supposed to be nervous right now, and that's okay. And so I'm going to let this moment pass, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to be ready to play right now. Or the next time you can be like, I'm not really even sure why I'm nervous right now, but I am, and I'm noticing that I'm nervous, and it's okay to be nervous. Just because I feel nervous or have this anxiety-provoking thought doesn't mean I have to play bad. You know, so you just want to try different things, and one day you'll try it, and you'll say something, or you'll do something, and all of a sudden you'll be like, hey, that felt really, really good. Okay, next question. Charlie, also, do you have any tips on how to pump up your teammates and get them ready to compete? Good question. I think it's hard to, first of all, it's hard to pump up ourselves sometimes. Sometimes we are tired. Sometimes we just don't want to play. But it's almost impossible to pump up your teammates. I think certain people want to be pumped up and certain people don't want to be pumped up. Your pump up might be different than somebody else's pump up. You know, you might love to jam loud music, loud rock and roll music, loud hip hop, loud rap, whatever you play. And your teammate might not like to do that. And so I think it's hard to know how to pump up each member of your team. You can try chants, you can try music, you can try doing things, but I think it's important to know that just because something pumps you up, it may not pump the rest of your team up. Yeah, and to not take it personally, and to always remember that you can only control you. So even if you're pumped and so super excited about something, other people may not be, and that's not your fault, or not your problem, not your fault. You can try, but just don't take it personally if they respond in a way that you wouldn't think they would respond. Okay, you're welcome. Nico, I feel I play my best when I'm under pressure and or supposed to be the underdog in a situation. Is there any way I can maintain that mental state for whenever I'm on the field? You tell me. You know, with that question, I would think about what about being under pressure or being an underdog makes you play better. And think about, so a lot of times when sometimes we have really good games, sometimes we have really bad games, what I do with athletes is go back and be like, hey, you know, what was I saying to myself? What was I doing this game? Why was this such a good game, right? And then on the games when maybe we didn't play so well, why didn't I play well today? What went on? Like, was I not feeling it? Was I a little tired? Was I too pumped up? Was I did I stay up late the night before playing video games? You know, whatever it is, just kind of start charting. So I know journaling's not everyone's favorite thing to do, but it's really cool. If you have a really good game, grab a journal, take 5 minutes, write down some things that went well in that game. Why do you think you had a good game? You know, and not just I scored a lot or I stopped a lot of goals, right? But actually, like, I felt really good. My legs were rested. I got good sleep last night. I ate a good dinner. We had some funny laughs before the game, or maybe it's I was really serious before the game. I saw myself performing well, right? And so all of a sudden you start to kind of get into a routine of, okay, this is what worked for me. And then maybe you have a bad game and you write down, this is what I did today, and obviously this didn't work for me. And that's not to necessarily make you superstitious, but it's so the more you play, the more games you get under your belt, and the more you journal, the more you can start to determine what is it that I need to do in order to prepare myself for the best possible outcome. So that would be my answer to that question. Okay, moving on to question number 4. Drew, what mindset should you have as a backup? Super tough question, right? What do you guys think? Well, it might take too long to respond. So what mindset should you have as a backup? Good question. I think, so I was a backup once. I think we've all kind of been a backup once. Maybe not. Some of us might be lucky enough to not have been a backup. But I think backup, you want to have a competitor's mindset, right? Oh, we can wrap it up. Oh, after this one. Okay. We want to make sure that we have a competitor's mindset. No matter if we're starting, no matter if we're coming off the bench, no matter if we're in a backup position, we want to always make sure we're competing. And we want to be the best that we can possibly be. And I think the most important part about a backup is that you're ready no matter what. So you practice just like everybody else practices. You stay into the game. You know what's going on, just because whenever you get that call, you want to make sure you're as ready as possible. Because the worst case scenario is you are the backup and then you finally get your chance and then you're not ready or you're not prepared. So even going towards backup, staying warm, staying loose on the bench, or even if you're not actually getting the reps you want in a game, so how can we get those reps? Well, you can get those reps through mental reps. Imagery is huge and awesome and a really, really powerful tool that the same neurons are going off as if you were actually practicing the physical movement, but you're just doing it mentally. It takes a lot of practice, but imagery is very, very powerful. So I think the bottom line for the mindset as a backup is that you are just constantly being a competitor, no matter what. What can you win today? You know, if this practice was your game, right? Maybe you know you're not going to play in the next game, so this practice today is your game. What do you want to accomplish in this game? What do you want to practice in this? What do you want to accomplish in this practice, if that makes sense? Okay, I need some water. I hope that helped you guys. I hope that answered some of your questions. And I guess we'll do this again soon. But thank you guys for coming out for the first annual live Facebook for Rise Sports. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. So everyone have a great night and go Phillies. See you guys.